Washington Congresswoman Gluesenkamp Perez is trying to push for what she's calling a cognitive acuity standard for members of Congress. She wants it to be part of congressional ethics standards, saying it's a concern that she hears often from people in her district in Southwest Washington. Here she is last month at a meeting of the House Appropriations Committee, pitching the standard as an amendment to the legislative appropriations bill.
When I go back home, what I hear from my neighbors is a conviction that Congress is this amorphous mass that hides behind their offices and are not being run by the elected member themselves, but by their staff.
The amendment itself is pretty short. It directs the Office of Congressional Conduct to develop a standard for what constitutes conduct that does not reflect creditably upon the House, as it relates to a member of Congress's ability to perform the duties of office unimpeded by significant, irreversible cognitive impairment. But it was shot down almost immediately.
The question's now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Washington. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Pretty definitive there. Gluesenkamp Perez says she's not giving up, though, and she's going to keep pushing for standards around cognitive acuity. She says voters have questions about mental decline among members of Congress and whether or not their staff members are making those decisions for them. And it's eroding her constituents' trust in the federal government, she told us.
230,000 people in my newsletter. I sent it out and I actually polled them. And we've never seen this level of clarity back in a poll. It's obviously not like a scientific poll or anything like that, but 92% of respondents support my amendment. There's a real appetite for transparency and good governance, and that's what this is about.
But perhaps not a real appetite in Washington, as heard by that voice vote. Representative Gluesenkamp Perez says Congress has all kinds of ethics rules. For example, what kind of gifts can they accept? But she says right now there's no criteria in place if someone has a concern about cognitive ability and how decisions are made. She'd like that to be added to those ethics rules. The Ethics Committee would develop a standard for complaints.
The language says members' ability to perform the duties of their office unimpeded by significant, irreversible cognitive decline. Then the Ethics Committee could evaluate that the information that's outlined. They could make a determination about whether or not that applies to the member who this ethics claim was brought against. They would vote to decide if an ethics violation had occurred, and then there'd be a secondary vote about whether or not they're going to make that a public disclosure about the ethics, at which point presumably the body could choose to bring it up for removal. But I think it's providing more information to voters to make sure that there's clarity. It's not about usurping. I believe American citizens should determine the outcome of an election, not a committee, not anyone else, but the citizens of the district itself.
Recently, you may have noticed some big headlines around the federal government, age, and potential cognitive decline. Gluesenkamp Perez was one of the first lawmakers to suggest that former President Joe Biden should drop out of the presidential race last year. She even said he should resign the office, saying at the time, "Like most people I represent in Southwest Washington, I doubt the president's judgment about his health, his fitness to do the job, and whether he is making important decisions about our country rather than unelected advisors." She pointed to other examples too, like Republican Congresswoman Kay Granger, who was struggling with dementia and living in an assisted living facility for months before anyone noticed she stopped showing up in D.C. That story was broken by the Dallas Express earlier this year, a small local news outlet in Texas. And Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton from D.C., who at 88 years old rarely attends committee meetings and has appeared to struggle publicly with memory and understanding. Gluesenkamp Perez says her amendment is not about age, explaining there are many older members of Congress who are doing well, but that some didn't see it that way.
I was disappointed. I mean, there were definitely some hard questions. Some people did take it as a personal attack, but this is not about an individual member. This is about the body itself having the self-respect and the transparency to voters about what is who is making decisions in Congress.
So what do you think? Are you concerned about cognitive decline in Congress or other governments? Should there be ethics rules around cognitive function? If so, how would you shape those? We want to hear from you. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090.